Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's time, man. I just finished the Kama Sutra about an hour ago on the train. I bought this book about a week ago, man. It didn't take me long at all to read. It's a very easy read, and it's the Kama Sutra, which is a time-tested, true book that was written over about 2,000 years ago. Historians are a little bit mixed on when it was actually written, but it's a very old book written by an ancient Hindi man living in India. And I know a lot of people in my generation aren't familiar with this book. Of course, older generations know, but my generation isn't. So a lot of people, even people that are knowledgeable of the book, they have a common misconception that it's only about sex. And even though sex is about 75 to 80% of the subject matter, it also dives a little bit deeper into overall pleasure. So it talks about the life of a gentleman. It talks about the life of a lady. It talks about how to seduce a woman. It talks about how to seduce a man, how to have long-lasting, everlasting unity within a marriage, a king and his servants. It talks about a lot of different things. Just kind of going off on a tangent real quick, I've always really enjoyed reading historical pieces, simply because I feel like in order to not make the same mistakes again, we need to go back and look at the mistakes that our forefathers made and learn from those mistakes so we don't repeat history. And also, we can learn from a lot of the different strategies and tactics that they implemented to reap certain benefits. We can use those in today's times to reap some of the same benefits that they did. So we can learn from them, both from their failures and their successes. So there's a lot of different things in this book. You know, you can see it has a pretty nice cover. It has some of these different sexual positions. Since it is such an old book, there's many different translations, just like the Bible, just like all these other really old books. The one I have is the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition, and it's translated by A&D Haksar. The original author of the book, his name was Vatsyayana. If you can read Hindi, try to get the original version. I'm sure that would be best. But there's a lot of different translations. This one here, it kind of like translates it, and then there's also certain passages that are straightly translated just from the book. So like right here, this is a passage that you would actually find in the actual book, but this over here isn't. This is just a summary of what was in the chapter. Does that make sense? So this one here doesn't have any pictures. It's all words, but you really don't need the words, man. If you are familiar with sex, there's going to be certain chapters where it doesn't actually have the pictures for you to see it, but you know what he's talking about. And it also, there's each one of these positions, because there's over 64 positions. All of them have names. They're all named. So if you're really curious about how it looks or how you would enact it when you're with your woman or you're with your man, you just Google it, man. You can find a picture of it. But those books are a little bit more expensive. I got this one for 16 bucks. So, I don't really care about the pictures. So, to each his own. But yeah, man, it's a classic book. I don't agree with everything that's in the book. For example, it talked about how but you got to remember it's a different time. So, for example, when they talk about young women in this book, it doesn't explicitly say it, but we can pretty much assume they're not talking about 18-year-olds, because it talks about how a prime woman is a virgin that hasn't even had her period yet. So we're talking 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. That's like a prime woman, but it was a different time. That wasn't that wasn't demonized back in that time. That was, that was the ideal woman. It talks about how if a man can't satisfy himself sexually with any women or something like that, it's acceptable to do it with an animal. Obviously, there's a lot of things in the book that we don't agree with, but 95% of it is solid information. And, it's really interesting just to learn that, there's certain things that never change. The way the game is played may change, but the game itself never actually changes, man. Men and women have always, tried their best to fulfill their desires, their physical desires through sex and other sexual interactions. And this book just lines out a detail about how you should go about it. What's the best way to please your woman? What's the best way to keep your woman? It talks about all these different drinks you can drink, and it can enhance your vitality and virility. It talks about how to keep your woman using different ways of speech and using different pomades and drinks and elixirs and things like that. It's a very interesting book. Like I said, you can't fully implement everything that's in the book because we are playing in a different, we're living in a different time. But like I said, if you're able to basically translate what's in this book in the current times, man, you're going to be a lot better with your sexual partners, and you're going to be able to obtain a lot more sexual partners just using some of the things in this book, man. So it's a very solid book. I recommend all of you guys check it out. It will make you better with women. It'll make you better with men if that's what you're into. And you know, it's solid. There's nothing else I can say about it, man. It's solid. You're gonna have to check it out for yourself, man. I really enjoyed reading it. It only took me about a week. Probably could have read it all in one sitting if I had the time. So it's a very easy read, very interesting, man. I recommend all you guys check it out if you want to get better at seduction, you want to get better at sex, you want to get better at keeping your woman. Read this book right here, man. You know, it's a very visually appeasing book as well. You know, it has all the different positions on it and everything. So make sure you check it out, man. Appreciate you guys watching. Peace.